From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome tonight. Senate President Godswill Akpabio, representing President Bola Tinubu, commissions major projects carried out by the Lagos State government. Leaders of the African Democratic Congress stage what they call a Save Nigeria Democracy protest at the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Abuja. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor George Amukweton, urges broadcasters to avoid spreading misinformation, stressing that the credibility of the 2027 elections will depend significantly on responsible use of the airwaves. And Iran says it will respond if ongoing Israel airstrikes on Lebanon are not halted immediately.
In our business, Nigeria regains frontier market status as FTSE Russell recognizes improvements in market structure and investor access.
On sports news tonight, Danny Medvedev suffered the first double bagel of his career, losing 6-love to Matteo Berrettini in 49 minutes at the Monte Carlo Masters.
From the nation's capital, joint sitting of the National Assembly on Petroleum Resources pledges to establish a system that ensures host communities are not marginalized.
We begin in Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, where the state government has inaugurated the iconic 5-kilometer Okpebi-Mende Link Bridge, the EGIS facility, as well as the multi-agency office complex in the Ikeja area of the state, with high-profile government functionaries also attending the event. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who commissioned the project on behalf of President Bola Tinubu, apologized for his absence at the event, adding that his responsibilities made it impossible to attend to all engagements.
Ojota Okpebi Link Bridge, a 5.04-kilometer engineering feat, flagged off in January 2022 by the administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, is now complete after 4 years. This road infrastructure and other landmark projects has brought the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, to Lagos State, representing President Bola Tinubu for the inauguration ceremony.
And we do this in the name of God the Father, Amen. God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you.
He drives through the road, a strategic infrastructure intended to address traffic challenges and connects communities around Ojota, Maryland, Mende, Okpebi, and Allen Avenue. Mr. Akpabio then moves to Alausa Ikeja to commission 2 other projects, the Lagos State Enterprise Geographic Information Service Building and the Alausa Multi-Agency Building, sitting on 2.01 hectares to accommodate government agencies in a single integrated environment.
All these are in the spirit of the Renew Hope agenda, that strong mantra that has been driving bold reforms and actions that have rescued our economy from the brink and put Nigeria among the committee of serious nations, where opportunities now abound.
Guests listen with rapt attention as their host, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, explains what the projects mean for Lagos.
The Lagos State Geographical Information Systems Building is the elimination of legacy paperwork that people usually have bottlenecks in land administration. The multi-agency administrative complex directly addresses another priority on this administration, the need for us to improve the speed of efficiency and coordination of our government services.
One of the political leaders in Lagos State, Tajuddin Olusi, who chairs the Governor's Advisory Council, is not pleased with the president's absence, but he applauds him for leading the country in the right direction.
I am a bit depressed. When I want to leave home, I was coming to welcome in person. I won't want one of us, and the current president of our country, but unfortunately, he's been represented by the president of the Senate.
It's been a busy but memorable day for the Senate president, who finally gets to give his remarks about the Ojota-Okpebi Link Bridge, a project originally conceived by the man he's here to represent during his administration as Lagos State Governor over 20 years ago.
If you knew that he was going to be president of Nigeria, that means that sometimes when you want to see him, he may not be available. These projects undertaken by the administration of Governor Sanwo-Olu are not just physical structures. They are symbols of purpose. They reflect a government that understands that development must be seen, must be felt, and must be experienced by the people they govern.
All three projects are described as significant for the economic growth of Lagos State. Another set of projects will be commissioned on Thursday, April 9, 2026.
President General amongst the nation.
Indeed, motorists can look forward to a rewarding driving experience now that the Okpebi Link Bridge has been officially opened for public use after months of construction. However, in the wake of preparation for the grand opening, the Lagos State government issued a travel advisory warning motorists of delayed travel time and restricted movement for areas surrounding the event place. In this next report, our correspondent Ulu Phillips takes a look at the other side of things.
First sights of what can be described as a highly anticipated event, at least by the Lagos State government. Vehicular movement looking smooth and good ahead of a travel advisory for motorists to take heed of the commissioning zone. We then come across the deserted Okpebi Road, cordoned off for motorists, indicating the road won't be in use until the link bridge is officially open for commercial use. It also meant that those who work or live around this vicinity might have to burn some calories getting by. And not too long, we found this lady heading to work.
I've walked from Allen to, I'm still going to my office. I'm supposed to be in my office normally like 40 minutes ago. So let's say I've used 40 minutes to walk this morning, honestly, and it's not funny.
For a better part of the day, this road wasn't available for a drive-through. Work may have neared completion on the Okpebi end of the bridge. The same can be said of the other stretch of the same road, as a different contractor is handling that part. Further down the road on the Okpebi link axis, motorists bear the brunt and lament being surprisingly caught in the web.
Everywhere is blocked. I reached Ojota now, they blocked. They said there's no way I should turn back. I came to this and I'm going to Maryland. Because I spent almost 1 hour within Ikeja. I'm not getting to Maryland.
We are coming from Allen. So around somewhere there, we were directed back. So we now pass here right again now. So we can't enter.
Where are you going exactly?
Okay, I'm going to Surulere. That's the Jolegba. So I've just been going round. This is my second time of coming here.
Business owners thought also to share their 1 cent on a broader challenge.
See, before I decide I want to do my drinks, 50,000, I'll buy a lot of things, carry and come. Then I'll still make my gain. But now, if I carry 150,000 enter that market, you never do what they do.
Many have had to get to the corridor to realize they can't travel any further. At the Okpebi Allen end, men are still at work. The work area that you might not get to see if you're not a frequent traveler around this area. So the Okpebi Link, beautiful bridge has been done, beautiful road, but it didn't continue all the way. It stops somewhere before Adebola House, and from Adebola House, another contractor is working from that end to this end, and what I can see is more like maybe junction improvement and traffic easing. I'm being told by the contractor here that there will be a traffic light here that will alternate for people to come in and for the people on this side to get into Towing Street. But if you're also coming from Towing Street all the way to Okpebi, you just go straight. If you're coming from Okpebi into Ireland this way, you just go straight. So some of this junction improvement is what is still under construction. The road is being expanded at this point, and that is the part of the Okpebi Link Ireland road that you do not see or might not see in the pictures that will be dominating the air screens today. Traffic gridlock stretches deep into Towing Street and other adjoining streets, making commuting experience a near harrowing one. The commissioning has been done, the wait is over, but the echoes of today will ring beyond the events proper. So many talking points are already grabbing the headlines with suggestions of a whole room for improvement.
Well, away from the project's commissioning in Lagos, let's head to the nation's capital now, where leaders of the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Governor of Osun State Ralph Aregbesola, former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amechi, and former Senate President David Mark, have led a protest to the headquarters of INEC in Abuja. The protest, which the demonstrators tagged as Save Nigeria Democracy, demands an immediate end to what they describe as the systematic erosion of democratic values by the electoral umpire and the ruling All Progressives Congress. The protesters are also calling for the resignation of the INEC chairman, Professor Josh Amukwiton.
The demonstration began at the Maitama roundabout in Abuja, with hundreds calling on the INEC chairman to resign. At the heart of the protest is the recent delisting of the David Mark-led National Working Committee of the ADC from their website, a move they claim favors the ruling APC and pushes Nigeria towards a one-party state. The protesters allege that INEC is acting as a judge and accuser by interfering in the ADC internal leadership.
What happened was a collaboration of INEC against the interests of the Nigerian people. So today, the Nigerian people are speaking in one voice, in unison, saying no, that what they want to do is to have a one-party state, and we say no.
Power is in your hand, not in anybody's hand. If you allow them, they will continue. Don't forget when we were in APC, we chased PDP out. It's our time to chase away APC.
Some of the prominent leaders of the ADC who joined in the demonstration include Ralph Aregbesola, former governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, Atiku Abubakar, among others. The protesters march on the streets with a convoy of vehicles driving along as they head to INEC headquarters, where a heavy security presence is waiting. Security operatives who initially formed a barrier were overwhelmed by the surging crowd of protesters, and the gate into the premises was hurriedly shut.
As we talk right now.
Some moment after, one of the INEC national commissioners came out to receive the demonstrators. The national chairman of the ADC makes his case.
The INEC interpretation has deprived us of our proper status, and that's what we petitioned INEC, that they should revise themselves and give the proper interpretation of the status quo ante bellum.
In a related development, another group of protesters under the aegis of the Coalition of Pro-Democracy Advocates staged a demonstration at the National Assembly in support of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC.
We are here to make a very bold statement that the solidarity for INEC and the leadership of INEC continues. That we are sensitive, we are conscious, and we are on ground. That we will continue to support INEC, we will continue to solidarize with INEC, and we will continue to protect that institution.
These protests and counter-protests against the electoral umpire may continue for a while, as both members of the ADC and supporters of INEC vow to continue their demonstration until their demands are met.
In part two, after the break, INEC chairman Professor Josh Amukpita urges broadcasters to uphold fairness, professionalism and accuracy ahead of the 2027 general elections. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Senate President Godswill Akpabio, representing President Bola Tinubu, commissions major projects carried out by the Lagos state government. Leaders of the African Democratic Congress staged what they call a Save Nigeria Democracy protest at the headquarters of INEC in Abuja. INEC chairman Professor Josh Amukpita urges broadcasters to avoid spreading misinformation, stressing that the credibility of next year's elections will depend significantly on responsible use of the airwaves. And Iran says it will respond if ongoing Israel airstrikes on Lebanon are not halted immediately. We're still talking politics, and some few hours after the ADC led the Save Nigeria Democracy protest at the headquarters of INEC, Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde also led other leaders of the Tani Motoraki group of the People's Democratic Party for a closed-door meeting with the leadership of the ADC in Abuja. Those in attendance at the meeting were former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde himself, former Senate President David Mark, and other prominent figures of the PDP under the leadership of Tani Motoraki. Others in attendance were former Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, former governors including Rotimi Amechi, Rabiu Kwankwanso, Aminu Tambuwal, Peter Obi, and Babangida Aliyu. The meeting ended with neither the PDP delegation nor the ADC members speaking to the press. However, before the meeting went into a closed-door session, Governor Makinde says he's leading the delegation on a solidarity visit with the ADC.
We came here to visit the leadership of ADC. We're on a solidarity visit. We've seen what has been happening within the political space, the court, and the protest today. So we came to show solidarity and to commit to a clean, democratic space in our country.
Chairman of the INEC, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Josh Amukpita, has been speaking on the need for broadcast organizations to guard against the spread of misinformation, warning that the integrity of the 2027 general elections will depend largely on how responsibly Nigeria's airwaves are managed. According to Professor Amukpita, who was the guest speaker at the 81st General Assembly of the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, the greatest threat to the credible polls may no longer be physical disruptions, but the rapid spread of false information amplified through unverified broadcasts. Our correspondent, Sarah Achimugu, tells us more.
The 81st General Assembly of the Broadcasting Organization is bringing together heads of media organizations, media practitioners from both the public and private sector space, as well as government officials. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission is the guest speaker. Upholding the tenets of equity, fairness and broadcast deadlines came to the fore in his address as he calls for the support of members of the broadcast industry.
Effective airways management requires a holistic approach that integrates legal clarity, institutional strength, and industry responsibility. So may I say, to facilitate the consolidation of Nigerian democracy through broadcast media, it is essential to ensure that the airwaves are managed in a manner that promotes equal opportunity, informed choices, and democratic accountability.
One of the roles of the organization is to act as an advisory body to the federal and state government on broadcast and advocate the interests of members while ensuring that professional standards are held. The Minister of Information reminds them of this task, as well as several roles towards nation building, peace and development.
As practitioners entrusted with managing the airwaves, you carry immense responsibility. The airwaves is indeed a public trust, and how the airwaves are utilized has a direct impact on our national cohesion, public understanding, and our democratic stability. In a diverse country such as ours, broadcasting serves not only as a source of information, but also a bridge that connects communities, cultures, and perspectives.
The Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission then speaks on the role of the media ahead of the 2027 general elections. He wants practitioners to adhere to the broadcast codes, which he announces will soon be updated.
The Commission will be rolling out a revised broadcast code appendix on electoral coverage within a few days. We expect born full cooperation on its interpretation and enforcement. My assessment, candidly, is that while progress has been made, we still see worrying trends. The monetization of divisive rhetoric, the silencing of minority perspectives, and the use of foreign-hosted platforms to circumvent local rules.
With the 2027 general elections fast approaching, the call to duty is served to members of the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria. Sarah Chimugu, Channels Television News.
So let's now head to the nation's capital, where Terry Kumi is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Over to you, Terry. Great to see you.
Great to see you as always, Ayo, and congratulations to us. Now, the 10th National Assembly will align legislative frameworks with emerging realities in the oil and gas sector and build a system where host communities are not marginalized. That's according to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas. He stated this during a roundtable by the Joint National Assembly Committees on Petroleum Resources. Meanwhile, the Senate President is calling for collaboration to ensure peace in the country's oil production process. The state of Nigeria's pipeline security and a battle against crude oil theft is the reason for this roundtable by the Petroleum Committees of the Senate and House of Representatives.
The previous OPEC...
The event is kick-started by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Gas Resources.
Illegal connections discovered and dismantled have increased by over 300%. Volumes lost to theft have dropped from a peak of over 400,000 barrels per day to under 100,000 barrels per day.
Remarks are received from the Senate President and Speaker of the House of Representatives, who were both represented.
The Senate President insists that every stakeholder must collaborate with the brief of the security agency in securing security or the peace of the pipeline.
Distinguished colleagues, I urge you to use this roundtable as a forum to assess the current pipeline surveillance architecture, strengthen transparency and accountability mechanisms, deepen community engagement as critical stakeholders in protecting national assets, and align legislative frameworks with emerging realities in the oil and gas sector.
Security agencies also reel out their successes and challenges in the fight against crude oil theft.
The Joint Intelligence Monitoring Center operates directly under the Office of the Chief of Defense Staff and tasked to monitor analyze, and produce actionable intelligence towards achieving the mandate of Operation Delta Safe, which is to curb oil theft and illegal bunkering in the Niger Delta.
Limited deployment of advanced technology, weak interagency coordination framework, absence of specialized courts for energy crimes, because most of the offenders of these criminal acts, most of the time they spend a lot of time in the court.
For the NNPCL, the development in oil and gas sector have led to a restoration of investor confidence.
One of the most profound outcomes of this improved security environment has been the restoration of investor confidence in the Nigerian upstream sector. Projects that have stalled for years due to security and host community risk are now reaching final investment decisions.
The technical session features an update from the private security firm responsible for securing the nation's pipelines in the Niger Delta region.
Look at the oil wells, illegal, thousands of them, all loaded with crude oil.
It is clear, it is evident that there is an increase in our production and that there is a reduction in oil theft and that our pipelines are becoming safer, which by the grace of God also means that the level of degradation in the host communities have reduced.
Subsequently, petitions against Tantita Security Services are dismissed by the joint committees on the grounds that the petitioners failed to honor invitations to further substantiate their allegations. Well, still to come on the news at 10 on Business News, Nigeria regains its frontier market status as FTSE Russell acknowledges improvements in market structure and investor access. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, has underscored the strategic importance of Dangote Industries Limited, particularly Dangote Fertilizer Limited, in addressing Africa's mounting food security challenges, while calling for stronger global partnerships to scale its impact. She stated this during a visit to the company's industrial complex in Ibeju-Lekki, Lagos, and promised that the UN would amplify scalable solutions capable of mitigating the continent's food crisis.
Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, is on a visit to the Dangote Industries Limited and is received by the President and Chief Executive Officer, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, and other top management staff as she is taken round to see some parts of the industrial complex, especially the fertilizer plant.
Synthesis of hydrogen and nitrogen require very high temperature and pressure, so we have to cool it down.
This visit by the UN Deputy Secretary General to the Dangote manufacturing plants, and in particular the fertilizer factory in Ibeju-Lekki, Lagos, puts a global focus on the $20 billion industrial complex as she gives her impression about the project.
Really impressed. I mean, the whole point of the visit is really to look at mitigating the crisis and the global impacts of what is happening in the Middle East. And fertilizer, food security is a big part of that. Having a look at the refinery today, the byproducts, it's very impressive. It has the capacity, the scale to deal with the problem on the continent. They don't have to go anywhere. It's at home. And I think we need to profit from that.
On his part, the President and Chief Executive of Dangote Industries Limited, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, said the group has ramped up exports of urea and premium motor spirits, PMS, to African markets affected by supply disruptions arising from the crisis. As a wider impact of the situation across the continent, Mr. Dangote noted that his company has intensified shipments of fertilizers to support agricultural productivity and ease supply constraints.
The challenges are many. One is of urea, which is fertilizer that we have. I think in the last couple of days we'll be loading to mostly African countries, which we are not doing before. And then now is to do with also petroleum products. What I can do is to assure Nigerians, first of all, here, and most of West Africa and Central Africa, East Africa, we have the capacity to supply them.
The United Nations Deputy Scribe highlighted the fact that the world body will continue to amplify food security challenges on the continent and identify the coming of the Dangote fertilizer plant as one of the solutions.
The UN's job here is to amplify and to put visibility on the possibilities of mitigating a food security crisis, and this is one of them. I hope that when we go back, that we can continue to talk to the partners that will partner, the countries that should partner with the Dangote Industries.
In order for Africa to develop, deliberate steps must be taken to ramp up manufacturing, which can only be strengthened by needed partnerships, as stated by the visiting top UN official to the Dangote Industries, in order to increase production, especially those that mitigate food shortages on the continent.
He said, no, if there is no foreign partner, I will not allow you to operate.
Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has sentenced 4 Boko Haram terrorists to life imprisonment. Justice Omotosho handed down the sentence after they pleaded guilty to the charges preferred against them by the federal government, and a witness from the Department of State Services gave evidence accordingly. Justice Omotosho also convicted and sentenced 14 others to different jail terms, ranging from 20 to 25 years in each of the counts filed against them. The confessional statement of the convicts and the investigation report were tendered by the prosecution through the DSS witness and were admitted in evidence and marked as exhibits. The convicts who bagged life imprisonment are Ali Abiso, Bakura Kabiru, Ado, also known as Luka Garba, and Babagoni Masawai. Justice Omotosho, who sentenced Abiso to life imprisonment in counts 2 and 4, committed him to 25 years jail term in each of the counts 1 and count 3, totaling 50 years. The judge, however, directed that the sentencing in count 1 and 3 must run concurrently. In count 4, the convict, a 30-year-old man from Bama local government area of Borno State, was alleged to have on or before July 8, 2022, aided and participated in Boko Haram attacks carried out in Bama, Gwoza, Konduga, Bita, Baza, and Aulari. The offense, the prosecution said, was contrary to Section 17 of the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. And that's a wrap from the nation's capital. Back to Ayo in Lagos.
Thank you so much, Terry. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, has noted with dismay the growing trend of lawyers taking briefs primarily for monetary gain and without sufficient regard for the advancement and development of the law. At the opening ceremony of the Nigerian Bar Association Section of Legal Practice, NBA SLP, held in Lagos, she called for sober and professional introspection and an urgent return to conscience, ethical courage, professional responsibility, and fidelity to justice. Our judiciary correspondent, Shola Shirley, now reports.
Yes. The 2026 annual conference of the Nigerian Bar Association's section on legal practice attracted most of the finest minds in the legal profession. Judges, senior advocates, professors of law, lawyers in practice across the country, as well as internationally. It had the theme, Evolving Trends, Nigerian Legal Practice, Global Perspectives, which speaks to the realities of a profession that must constantly adapt to the rapid currents of change, driven by technology, globalization, and shifting societal expectations. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, who declared the conference open, tasked lawyers to embrace innovation and pursue global relevance without compromising ethical standards.
The practice of law is not and must never become a mere commercial enterprise driven solely by financial reward or ancillary benefits. While the legal practitioner is unquestionably entitled to fair remuneration for professional services rendered, the acceptance of briefs must ultimately be guided by conscience, professional responsibility, and fidelity to justice.
The chairman of the section, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Folashade Ali, and the keynote speaker, George Adok of the International Court of Justice, Dr. Olufemi Elias, speak to the relevance and impact of international law on legal practice in Nigeria.
Ongoing conflicts in Ukraine, Iran, use of force in Gaza, recent military activities in Venezuela, even in our their country over here, have all prompted questions about the vitality and even the existence, for some, of international law. The point here is this: international law provides interpretive infrastructure for much of Nigerian law and issues that arise in routine practice in Nigeria.
It challenges us to critically examine the intersection between global development and local practice. And how can we, that run law firms in Nigeria, be more visible? And that really is what informed us as a section under our tenure to try and come up with a way where we can be more visible. That's the reason why we came up with having a national law firm directory.
At the opening plenary, former Vice President and Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, offered bold proposals for independent courts, trusted justice, and a stronger nation.
One of the suggestions is that there should be a preponderance of lay members of what will become the National Judicial Council with a lay chairperson. And I think that would be fantastic. We need more people from the public who are able to decide what sort of judges they want, you know. So the process of judicial selection should be a far more objective process, you know, so that we're able to get the very best people. And then they should be tenured.
One of the high points of the conference was the unveiling of the law firm directory aimed at enhancing the visibility and global positioning of Nigerian law firms. Shola Shieli, Channels Television News.
Let's get the very latest in the world of business with Will Ibon.
Thank you, Ayetunde. Now, FTSE Russell has restored Nigeria to frontier market status, marking a key step in its return to global investment indices and boosting its appeal to international investors. And the upgrade from unclassified to frontier markets takes effect in September this year and reflects improvements in infrastructure, accessibility, and transparency on the Nigerian exchange, including stronger trading systems and settlement processes. And the World Bank says growth in sub-Saharan Africa is holding steady, but warns that downside risks are increasing amid global uncertainties. And the region is projected to grow by about 4.1% in 2026. That's unchanged from 2025, but revised downward from earlier estimates as rising fuel, food, and fertilizer costs weigh on the economies. From there, we head to the domestic equities market, which sustained positive sentiment for the second day. Here's Inijo Mekwa with the highlights.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. It's a good market day today. 407 billion naira is what investors brought into the market, and that has finally brought us back to the 130 trillion naira level. So we closed at 130.404 trillion naira. And look here also, we closed yesterday 201,000. At intraday, we did 202,000. However, we lost some of those hundreds right here, but we're still on 202,000 level at the close of trade, 0.28% for the whole share. And looking at the sectors, we see pleasant numbers and good sentiment. Banking, we see gain. The FUGAs mostly contributed to this, 1.79%. Consumer goods also is green at this time, as well as oil and gas, 2.11% up for the counter. So we see that the good sentiment spread all through the major counters, and it also brings back the bull.
Thank you, Ini. And it's no different for other major global stock markets around the world. We see them rallying after Trump announced the 2-week ceasefire with Iran and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Let's see their numbers. That's business news. I'm Will Ibong. It's back to you, Ayotunde.
Thank you, Will. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has vowed to deliver a regret-inducing response if Israeli strikes on Lebanon do not stop immediately. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news and Around the World on 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says we have a real chance at peace after a conditional 2-week ceasefire was agreed with Iran. Donald Trump says the US will work closely with Iran and they will dig up and remove buried nuclear material, adding that there will be no enrichment of uranium. Both sides have claimed victory. Iran says it will reopen the Strait of Hormuz and that its victory in the field would also be consolidated in upcoming talks.
He spared those targets because Iran accepted the ceasefire under overwhelming pressure. This new regime was out of options and out of time. So they cut a deal. They know this agreement means that they will never, ever possess a nuclear weapon.
Meanwhile, the Israeli military has carried out a large wave of airstrikes across Lebanon, with reports of a high number of casualties across the country. Hospitals overwhelmed and people believed to be under the rubble of collapsed buildings. Israel described it as the largest wave of airstrikes in the conflict, hitting more than 100 of what it called Hezbollah command centers and military sites in 10 minutes. Attacks hit the southern suburbs of Beirut, southern Lebanon, and the eastern Bekaa Valley. This happened hours after the office of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu denied the assertion by Pakistan, which helped mediate a ceasefire between the US and Iran, that the deal also covered the devastating conflict in Lebanon. Republican Clay Fuller is projected to have won Georgia's runoff election to replace the former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a once staunch ally of Donald Trump who resigned earlier this year after breaking with the president. He is a Trump-endorsed candidate who won against Democrat Sean Harris and whose victory keeps the strongly conservative district in Republican hands. The win shores up the party's razor-thin 217-214 majority in the House of Representatives. Fuller, a lieutenant colonel in the Georgia Air National Guard, will serve out the rest of Greene's term, which ends next January. 16 Cameroonians have been killed fighting for Russia in Ukraine after a foreign ministry source verified that a recently leaked diplomatic note circulated on social media about the deaths was authentic. The government has faced criticism over its prolonged silence on the issue, and this marks the first recognition of the involvement of its nationals in the conflict. A recent report by All Eyes on Wagner, a group that investigates mercenary activities worldwide, said 94 Cameroonians had died in the war between 2023 and 2025. The leaked note from Cameroon's foreign ministry to the Russian embassy describes the 16 who had died as military contractors. Fears are growing in opposition circles in Zimbabwe that the ruling ZANU-PF party is making a new grab for power as it presses ahead with constitutional amendments aimed at giving Parliament rather than voters the right to elect the president and to extend his term from 5 to 7 years. But ZANU-PF, in power since independence in 1980, has vehemently defended the proposed changes. The conflicting views highlight the deep polarization that draft legislation aimed at changing the constitution has caused, pitting ZANU-PF and opposition supporters against each other. Madagascar has declared a 2-week nationwide state of energy emergency amid severe fuel shortages caused by the US and Israel's war in Iran. The presidency said the decision was taken following Tuesday's cabinet meeting over fears the situation could lead to public disorder. The Indian Ocean island, which relies on oil to produce much of its electricity, is dependent on fuel imports from the Middle East, and supplies are likely to be disrupted for some time, despite the 2-week ceasefire announced overnight. Last year, persistent power and water shortages in Madagascar led to youth-led protests, which escalated to broader political unrest, resulting in a military takeover. And Greece has announced plans to ban access to social media for under 15s, becoming the latest European country to restrict children's exposure to online platforms. Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis said the move was aimed at tackling rising anxiety and sleep problems among young people, as well as what he described the addictive design of social media. The restriction will come into force from January of next year. France, Austria and Spain are among a growing number of nations pursuing similar curbs. The UK government has launched a consultation on whether to implement a ban for under-16s, while Ireland and Denmark are also considering similar measures.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. We begin with the UEFA Champions League, where PSG and Atletico Madrid gained a 2-goal advantage in the first leg quarter-finals. Desiree Doué and Veiga Kvaratskhelia scored the goals to give a dominant PSG a 2-0 win over Liverpool. In the second game on the Atletico Madrid punished 10-man Barcelona to take control of the tie. Julian Alvarez and Alexander Soloth they scored, and that earned them a commanding 2-goal lead over the La Liga leaders. And in the Nigerian Women Football League Premiership champions, Bayelsa Queens thumped Ibom Angels 3-0. Rivers Angels also recorded same scoreline against Adamawa Queens. In other Group A results, on March Day 14, Niger Rattles lost 1-2 at home to Ekiti Queens, while Halfland and Peace Setters Queen shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw. In Group B, Dana's Ladies and the other Queens produced the highest scoring games, winning with 5-0 in Lagos. Oshun Babes urged Confluence Queens by a lone goal, and Nasarawa Masons also defeated Remo Stars Ladies 1-0, with Sunshine Queens producing same result against Abia Angels 1-0, while FC Robo Queens got a point at Ahu.
Many thanks, Chris. And just before we go, Nigeria's leading broadcaster, Channels Television, has won the Television Station of the Year award at the Nigeria Broadcasting Awards. Channels TV, which has won the Best Television Station of the Year at the Nigeria Media Merit Award, NMMA, for a record 16 times, bagged the latest honor at the second edition of the award, organized by the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, BON, in Abuja. The chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, was also honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the event. Indeed, a big congratulations to all the channels, to all family members of Channels Television, indeed. And just, of course, and the main news again as we go now. Senate President Godswill Akpabio, representing President Bola Tinubu today, commissioned major projects carried out by the Lagos State government. And leaders of the African Democratic Congress today staged what they call a Save Nigeria Democracy protest at the headquarters of INEC in Abuja. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. From everyone here, a good night.